Welcome to today's discussion. I'm going to share with you a very interesting tool. It's a T-shape skill evaluation tool, and we use this tool to whenever we are hiring a designer or a strategy person in the organization. So this yellow section which you see here, those are the professional skills we look in the designer whom we are hiring, and this side, those are the skills like we kind of expect a brand thinker, a brand strategist supposed to have. And then there are common skills we want to expect these candidates should have, whether you want to join as a strategy person or a designer. You have to have these 10 life skills, and you need to expose yourself to these domain knowledge. Okay, so for example, there is a trend study. You need to kind of aware about the trends and coming trends and a little bit about the trends. So likewise, there is methodology study. When you are creating or are making strategy, that context building is very important. If you have a good amount of methodology study, you can use some of that information to create new meanings. Then we have some amount of psychological study and NLP, because we are into meaning making and creating brands for people. So understanding people matters. Then here's one interesting domain knowledge is important to inculcate, which is our archetype. There are 12 archetypes which are defined by Carl Jung, and a good amount of brands do carry the theme of those archetypes. What do I mean? There's a whole book and a lot of articles written on 12 brand archetypes. So being aware about these archetypes and how good brands are kind of associating themselves with one or two archetypes and they're building their brands is crucial. Then another domain knowledge is important, which is how neuromarketing, whenever people buy something or they make decisions, how understanding this neurology side of it, the buying behavior or buying habit, definitely helps or gives some insights regarding buying pattern. Another domain which is a semiotic study, and a semiotic is a really interesting subject. There are a good amount of research has happened, and a great number of people are using semiotic to build brands. So studying or understanding about semiotic and a cultural study, ethnography, really important knowledge. Another thing, whether you are a designer or a strategy person, you need to be aware about business strategy studies. So there are a lot of these articles, documents get published on quarterly basis. So you should study and be aware about happenings in the business world. Cognitive psychology study, human psychology, as I was earlier saying, is very important. Design creation study. I want whether a strategy or a designer needs to spend good amount of their time understanding how designs are created or brands are created or advertisement is created. They need to spend good amount of time understanding the behind story of that creation or analyzing the making of those ideas or those concepts, because that is where the knowledge is hidden. Okay? Brand building study, there are a good amount of knowledge available how brands are built and how brands are kind of transformed according to the need of the day. So having a knowledge about the field of branding is important, because we are in a branding industry, so we need to have a good amount of understanding that helps us to make strategies. and create our own solutions, and at the same time convince client that how other brands are kind of behaving or building their brands. Another one, consumer buyer behavior. So understanding this buyer behavior is critical. Why people buy certain things, how people buy gifts, when they are buying gifts for themselves, what kind of psychology come into play when they are buying gifts for a loved one or their kids, how their psychology change or what really they consider when they are buying gifts. Is there any cultural connection or a prejudice or a biases in when they are buying gifts? Aesthetic study. Aesthetic is a highly integral part of brand building. There's a whole scientific study. If you look at your brain, there are billions of neurons in your brain. These neurons are kind of distributed among these 5 senses, roughly I'm saying. So the majority of the neurons are kind of engaged in processing images and visuals. So that means visual play a huge role in perception and decision making and feeling and building trust and so on and so forth. So visual is all about aesthetics. So if you know aesthetic and if you continuously up your knowledge studying about the research on aesthetic really helps. And another domain which is a marketing study, like there are a lot of these marketing case studies. It's better to update yourself with latest happening and latest techniques used to build brands and businesses. That's always good. So here you can see that there are a good amount of a domain. It's very important the prospective candidate needs to know. And this is highly critical, which is 10 life skills, okay? To perform better in your role as a designer or as a strategist in an organization, you have to have these 10 life skills. And these life skills are not just restricted for a seeking job, but to lead a better life. You kind of culture these skills. Like one of the skills is the problem solving. We all need to develop this skill, problem solving. The second skill is the critical thinking. You need to make a lot of decisions. You have to critically think. Then good communication skill. You have to communicate your thought, and you should be good with communication. Not only just fluency of the language, but in terms of how you say it and customizing your topic to the person whom you're saying. And a fourth one is a decision-making skill. I see a lot of people, many a time they struggle just to make decisions, simple decisions like whether I want to buy a lighter gray or a deeper gray t-shirt. They just struggle for hours and hours just to decide which gray they want to buy. They already decided they want to buy a gray t-shirt. Among 2 grays, they are struggling which gray to buy. So indecisive or not making or not taking decision is not really good. So cultivating decision-making skills also important. Creative thinking is critical because you are in a creative industry, so you have to have the creative thinking. Interpersonal relationship skill, one more very, very important skill, because you will be working in team, because you'll be working with strategy person, you will be working with other designers. So if you are good with interpersonal skills, so you can collaborate. So you being a team player is essential to work in an organization. And self-awareness is having a lot of common sense, understanding how to behave yourself, and being aware about the roles and responsibilities. Empathy, you are living among the people, with the people, you're working with the people. Having this empathy really works for you and for others as well. So if you're a shrewd person or a rude person, you might face that others also start behaving with you rudely. And coping with stress. Yeah, this is a big thing. I see like good number of candidates, like when they kind of fail to cope with stress. Yes, when you are working, there will be some stressful situations, stressful deadlines or projects. So you need to have a certain mechanism how to cope with. Another is coping with emotions. You need to develop this kind of a strength, mental strength to cope with your emotion, because I know that when you are a creative or a designer or a strategy person, so you kind of pour your heart and soul to create a strategy or come up with a design. So client might dislike, and he might outrightly tell you that you created a stupid design or a bad design. So if you are emotionally weak, and you might feel really bad. So what I'm trying to tell you is that try to understand the rationale behind it and try to look at the circumstances and try to respond according to the need of that particular situation and day, rather than being emotionally vulnerable. So again, these 10 skills you're supposed to be kind of good so that you can perform. These 10 skills ensure your efficiency as a human being. Domain knowledge ensures your understanding about the subject, which directly, indirectly connected to your brand creation, your industry. And as a professional skill, like you went to college, studied those relevant courses, like wherein you kind of picked up your skills, like marketing research skill, analysis skill, a brand strategy skill, and you know how to come up or arrive at insights and arrive at brand positioning. All of these skills you learned on the course, so you have to bring that skill. And as a designer, of course, in a design school or in a creative school, you must have learned how to do visual research, ideation skills you learn, brand design skill, how to create brand and how to create a brand language, and creative ideation, visual ideation, and mood board creation, and producing brand materials like brand books and so on and so forth. So you bring these skills because you studied those in your visual communication course or a branding course. So as a designer, utilize your skills and imagination, your thinking. A strategist bring their strategic skills and knowledge, and then you both together create a brand solution. And once you create a brand solution, obviously you're creating a brand solution for a client, okay? So you together, you have to do a presentation or a persuasive presentation to a client so that he buys your design solution. So I hope I'm able to kind of explain you how this T skill tool is extensively used in bringing required talents on the board of a branding company.